Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and in this special episode, I am tackling that's right, two Oldsmobile cutlasses for a client. If you like the content, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. So this is a very long overdue project. I was given this, God, I don't know, 6 months ago, I think. And I just haven't had the time to be able to tackle this the way it deserves. So what he wanted is, and he sent me the vehicles, they're Johnny Lightnings, is he wanted two cutlasses. One to replicate, I believe it was his dad's, and in pristine shape, and the other one more similar but a barn find style. So as I really enjoyed tackling the project, so I really wanted to make sure I did it right. So I took way too long to do it and get going. So originally, just mainly, I had stripped it a while ago, and I stripped both and primed them. They're pretty easy to take apart, and I painted them the orange color, which is more like it's like a reddish orange. It's hard to tell from the video. The thing that I really delayed on this that gave me hesitation was all the striping. So I get this Tamiya, I call it flexible pinstriping tape. It's very thin and it's very flexible, and it doesn't, it sticks pretty decent, but it's very pliable and you can do just about anything with it. So having discovered that, I decided I can finally tackle this project. So naturally with the cutlass, the stripes on the hood, there was two, and then obviously the more important and the harder part was the stripes that go down the side of the car and over the wheel wells. Those I wanted to paint on. I didn't want to try to make decals and trim, and it was just going to be a pain in the neck. So I'm using a variety of tape. I used the pinstriping tape for the fine tape for obviously getting the lines, and then I used some of the Tamiya masking tape style just to fill in some areas. And then because I was running low on that, I'm using some of the painter's tape. So the sides I had to do in pieces. So I actually paint the long stripe that goes down the side first. Then I'm going to do the wheel wells as a second stage of paint. And you can see I'm kind of bending the tape around the wheel wells. And I mean, this isn't perfect, but it came out pretty damn good. I'm pretty happy with it. But it's something I couldn't have done until I got this tape. So I'm glad I waited and I didn't try to hack it and doing it prematurely. So the interior on these is white, which was perfect. That's what he wanted. And the convertible is white as well on his dad's. So the Johnny Lightnings came with a black convertible top boot. Not sure what the convertible is actually, but the boot itself is black. So I had to paint those white. So I'm using my Citadel paint for that, and I put two coats on. So because this casting, it's all one piece. The engine, the front bumper, the rear bumper, headlights, taillights, everything is all one piece. I had to paint everything, obviously, all together. So the engine compartment, I'm painting the Abaddon black from Citadel, which dries as a matte finish black, which is perfect. So I'm going to do the engine compartments that way, and then I'll do the actual engine itself separately with different shades of paint from Citadel. This is sped up, and you can see how slow I'm going because I can't see crap. The Molotov pens is what I'm using to do the bumpers front and rear. And I'm only showing you on one car because everything is duplicate. I did the exact same thing up to a certain stage on both cars. And there's one that didn't come out as good. I mean, it came out good, but it didn't. There was a few errors here and there. That'll be the one I'll put into the barn find category per se. So this is the interior from that car, and I'm using the it's a brown shade. It's Agrath Earth Shade, and I'm going to put that on the interior to dirty it up on the convertible top boot. And what it does is after it dries, it gives it a nice grungy look. There's two shades. I've got the Nuln Oil, which is more of an oily black, and then the Agrath, which is definitely more of a brown, dirty very dirty look. And so that's what I'm hitting first is that. And you can put this on. This is all, whatever you feel personal preference wise. You can put it on heavy. I put it on fairly light, like on the seats, and then I kind of pulled it a little bit inside, like with the seat back in the bottom meat, almost like that's where it would be. I'm trying to emulate, real grunge, I guess. So I'm taking some 360 sandpaper and I'm scuffing up the hood, and I'll scuff up the side of the body just a little bit, just to kind of dull it down. The splash paints that I use is a base coat clear coat system, so it's got a matte finish to begin with, but I'm just scuffing it up just a little bit in a few spots here and there to add a little bit of weathering naturally before I hit the different weathering compounds that I use. So, and I'm not going crazy. I'm just barely hitting it. Now, I had a 72 Oldsmobile Cutlass. It was when I had the speed shop, somebody brought it in. They wanted $500 for it. He needed money. So I bought it. The convertible top was destroyed and it was a rust bucket, but it was fun to drive. But inherent in any convertible, I've had a Chevelle convertible as well. Any old convertible, they're, at least in New England, they're rot boxes. It always leaks. The trunk is destroyed, if not non-existent. The rear quarters are gone. It just, everything from the convertible just leaks down into the trunk and hits every nook and cranny that it can find. And if you're lucky, you might find one with a frame that's in good shape. So what I'm going to try to do here, and I'm using Typhus Corrosion, which is a texture paint, and I'm just kind of dabbing that in spots that would normally would rust, like deck lids. You can see right there, I'm doing it where it joins up at the bumper. All those kind of places, and I'm just dabbing it on there. And this is part one of a two-part process. And what this does is it gives it, when it dries, it's kind of a browny, grainy texture. So I'm just kind of dabbing it on there, and I'm not putting it on too heavy. And I'm hitting, the wheel wells, rocker panels, behind the, the front wheels, on the fenders, any place that would normally rust or rot, and also like the tops of the fenders, tops of the doors as it rounds the corner. Here I'm using the second stage, which is a dry brush paint. It's called Riser Rust. It's also from Citadel. And I really think Citadel should sponsor me. Hint, hint, hint. And this you put on very lightly. And you can add, the more you brush on, you can get different levels of, and I know it looks bright orange, but when you put it over the brown, it actually works perfectly. So how much you put on is up to you. You always start light. You can always add more. But there'll be some parts where you might add a little bit more, some parts a little bit light, and it gives it a varying texture, I guess you could say, throughout the entire project. So this is my go-to brush texture combo that I like to use, and I use more often than not. I do have texture powders and all this other stuff, but this stuff just works. I just tend to always go back to it, so I tend to go with what I know, and I know how it's going to look. And this stuff, I just really like it. So again, this is the barn find one, so I'm gonna, it's tough when you start doing these, trying to find a balance of what's going to work, before you go too far overboard. Now I'm going to break into the Nuln Oil, which is, if you remember, is more of a oil-based, oil-looking dark wash. So I'm hitting a few spots on the interior, nothing too drastic, just a few, just to add a little varying color over the white, because it's white seats. So it just adds a little bit to that. And then I'll do a few spots here and there on the body, and then I do the engine compartment. I kind of grease up, I guess you could say, by putting that on the engine compartment. You can see that's what I'm doing right now with my big ass hands in the way. I'm going to change my camera angle once I get a different tripod. And I'm doing the wheels as well. The other part of this project I had to do is I had to paint the wheels, because one was green and whatever color the other one was, I forgot. So obviously I had to change those, but I also wanted to grunge that up as well. So the last step on this grunging process is this Xandri dust, and it looks like sand, dried sand. So I'm going to also dry brush on the wheels, like behind the wheel wells, front and rear, just like it went through a bunch of mud puddles and it dried and caked on. And it, again, adds a little varying texture and color to the actual overall look and feel of the vehicle, which is kind of what I was after for a barn find. Then the final stage is just going to be taking that Nuln Oil and just kind of grunging up the base, because I didn't paint the bases. So this will really kind of give it that oily look, like a rear main seal blue. And it just, if you've ever had one go, you know it pretty much spats oil all over the back of your car underneath. So this is the clear coated version. Again, I didn't show you everything on that one because it was pretty simple. But this is what I ended up with. I hope he's happy. I mean, I've sent him pictures. He said he likes everything. This was definitely an endeavor. It was a challenge. I did have fun with it, and I apologize once again for it taking so long. I'm horrible on my commissions, but it is what it is. So stick around. I got a couple of videos, and I also have some pictures at the end of the different cars in next to each other. So thank you very much, and I will catch you on the next one.